and I'm glad you mentioned that because it's getting ready to go up for sale or is already sold in North Memphis. Advocating at economic meetings, like statewide meetings where companies are coming in, they're coming to Nashville, they're coming to Memphis, and they're looking for new places to locate jobs. Instead of that factory going to South Haven or Piperton or Collierville, going as a representative of District 7 to say, hey, I've got this great site in Memphis with an area that really wants to work. Let's work together, let's develop a training program, and let's get these people that want to work, get them the skill sets, get them the training, and build that plant right there in District 7. It's already got the infrastructure, it's already got everything that you need ready to go. But the biggest thing is it's not hard. It's the fact that people don't get up there for the right reasons. They don't have the heart. They've got other interest in being on city council. They don't have a heart for doing what's right for the people. And that's been the biggest issue, I think, with the current representative. And I think once you get somebody up there that's going to care, that's going to fight, that's going to dedicate a lot of time towards fighting for the district, you'll see solutions, you'll see growth, you'll see things happen that haven't happened before.
Michalyn?
So it's a lot of things that might have made that difficult, but we're moving forward in that and definitely going to try to choose a candidate who's not just going to fight, but also advocate and work with others on the council. Essentially, everyone has 4 district representatives, so that needs to be a collaborative effort amongst those 4 in the super district 8, 1, 2, and 3, and 7 to ensure that the things that the district needs comes on the table. And that comes through priority, but it also comes through collaborative voice. So as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of groups, leaders, and pillars in the community that are doing work, that are voicing their opinions, that have shown what can be done to fix things in the district. But when you don't know the areas in your district, it's easy to ignore them. When you don't know context and history behind neighborhoods, behind white flight, behind the plight of different individuals in the neighborhoods, especially in District 7, it's going to be easy to forget a bulk of them when you're talking about progress. And also with our current representative, we've come to a point where we couldn't hold him accountable. We've come to a point to where we couldn't trust the decisions that he would make, that he would be honest with the people who he met with before while campaigning and promising that truth and that transparency, and we lost that early on in that tenure in those 4 years. So having to get back to that honesty, that transparency, but also someone who will not only listen, but who will take the time to learn the context and history of why things are the way they are, so we cannot repeat the same mistakes that have left us destitute in the majority of areas of District 7.
I'd like to ask, when you think about what it is District 7 needs, can Memphis afford to put resources into District 7? Can it reallocate the budget without causing duress in other areas? Or does it need a larger tax base?
Can we not afford to invest in District 7? And when we talk about different districts, especially the poor zip codes in the city, in the north and the southern areas, with District 7, we can't afford no longer to ignore our areas. We can't afford any longer to ignore Douglas, Nutbush, Hyde Park, Chelsea, Frazier, New Chicago, Klondike, Smoky City, Evergreen. We can't. I've been there forever. My family's been there for generations, and we only see changes in the negative light in a lot of these areas. We have not seen a lot of things being built. For example, we've been canvassing since we announced in May. We've talked to over 5,000 residents so far. And a lot of this is about what you tangibly see that makes you feel a certain way about your community. So small things, such as I was in Hyde Park over on Hastings, and their main issue was the grass being cut on the levee. And their real thing was, well, when you don't care about us all the way in the back, all the way in the cut, in Hyde Park, and just things being taken care of, prioritized, small wins that could show us, I know you all, I know what your needs are, and I'm watching and I'm caring about you, not just while I'm campaigning, but throughout the whole time, because you, as one neighborhood and one citizen group, you all are all inclusive of District 7. But as far as the budget, definitely divesting from certain things that we've shown have not gained us any progress in the city, and definitely reinvesting in other things. I'm a public educator, so I'm all about taking what you have and making it work, spreading things around, moving the budget around. There's no sense to say that we can't do that now. And you're saying I don't know what your question, enlarging the tax base for a possibility of increasing that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need to do that. I think that if we're investing in fixing poverty, we're investing in workforce training, we're investing in getting more living wage jobs, then that tax can increase on its own, but we have to make sure that we invest in our citizens that which we're trying to help.
I've got a question about education. I'm sorry. Go.
Price is.
I want to answer this.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
My
thank you.
bad. I'm sorry.
You said, can we afford to invest in these districts, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Without affecting other
Mm-hmm.
parts of the city or parts of the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can. And it becomes a matter of the priority of the people approving the budget as to where these funds are allocated and how they're spent. If we work as a council, or if I work as a councilman once elected with county commission or the other 3 council representatives that lay in the overlay district or the super district, there's no telling what we can achieve for this district, because county commission just approved $10 million of taxpayer money to fund Tom Lee Park, a park that's already well attended. Needs some upgrades, yes, but why spend $10 million on an upgrade cosmetically to a park that's already well attended and that just needs some minor, maintenance, when we have burnt out homes, overgrown lawns, tires that can't be picked up in Fraser or in North Memphis and Uptown, cars sitting on the side of the road. So I think collaboratively, the county and the city can invest in areas that need it. It just needs to be the priority of those representing the areas to allocate that funding. I do disagree with Michalyn. We do need to increase our tax base. That's how a city properly runs. The reason that our tax rate and our sales tax rates are so high is because our tax base is lower than most cities of this scale. We have 652,000 people living in the city of Memphis, but we also have the highest poverty rate, which means also that we're also dealing with low-income households. We're dealing with low tax rates, and that's why we've suffered with our infrastructure. We've got roads that didn't get paved. We've got sewer lines that are breaking down. And now MLGW is even asking it rate increases for residents because of the aging infrastructure with MLGW. If we were asking the right questions 10 years ago, we could have invested in green renewable energy, harnessing energy from the river that has never been tapped into, to save rates, save money, and invest back into people and the neighborhoods. But it has to be a priority. That's the key. It's where we spend money and why we spend money is the issue. And then also, like I said, bringing the people, retaining Memphians, and then bringing new people by better in your education, better crime, and making this more attractable to companies and outsiders. That's how you build a tax base. That's how you get a better ran city. And then also allocating the tax dollars in the right areas and the priorities.
A question about education. You all both have referenced education. Of course, one of you is an educator. This question, first directed at Michalyn, is because you don't have any direct oversight of the Shelby County school system, you don't have the ability to make direct changes, but what could you do as a legislature, and would you advocate for more city involvement, more council involvement in SES and education in general? Start with you, Michalyn.
Well, as an educator, I think saying that we have no direct impact is an understatement and pretty false. I think that if we're constantly saying the city has no responsibility with its children of Shelby County, which are mostly Memphis City children, and we're doing ourselves a disservice. Everything that educators do, from the time we go in the morning to 2 or 3 dismissal, we're doing for naught if the city is not supporting its youth in its neighborhoods, in its communities once they leave school. We've seen timeless examples of students who we figured, well, they had the education, so maybe they wouldn't go to crime. But we all know that a lot of times that education, in whatever sense you may have, may not be prevalent when you're forced with the decision, in the streets for something that's faced by poverty. So we have to ensure, as you brought up, to make sure that we're providing a lot of well-rounded resources and services for our youth, as well as their families. I can't stress enough that both of those things tie and marry together, because these youth are taking on the issues that their parents have. They are wondering about how are they going to eat once school is out? What are they going to eat during the summer, especially if they can't have access to the free SCS meals in the summer? Where are they going to go on a Friday evening if the closest community center that's open is 3 miles away? We don't have public transit. It's dark outside because there aren't any street lights in their neighborhoods that are well lit and working. These are all the issues that the city has direct change with. And just to throw it off and say that, not to say that you're throwing it off, but the city, just to throw it off and say that, well, that's a Shelby County thing, we just need to make sure our school board and our superintendent are supported. But we're not. Educators aren't supported with what's going on with the community. Schools aren't supported with what's going on with the city. We need to directly understand that we have the most, not the most, but an equitable amount of direct change that we can impact on these kids, because as I said, what's happening with their families and the adults in their homes, they're taking it on. They're getting jobs to contribute their check to their parent, to pay their rent and their utility. They're taking food from the school to bring back to their siblings who are not enrolled in school. All of these are some things that can be supported and more advocated by city help, city representation, city support, and city government.
Same thing, question for you, Jerred.
I agree that with Michalyn that yes, the city does have a huge part in our children's education, and say so in it. I'm tired of, one of the things I'm tired of seeing in city government and county government is, oh, that's not my job and this isn't my job, because the two should act together. Just, you represent, as a councilman, you represent your constituents, and your constituents have children, and you represent those children, and you need to fight for those children. So I think really partnering with Shelby County Schools and Shelby County government is absolutely vital for the next representative of any district, or mayor even perhaps. This goes into MATA. Forever, this county never funded MATA. They just recently introduced the $10 million investment into MATA because they finally realized the Memphis Area Transit Authority also serves parts of Shelby County, because Memphis is Shelby County, correct? So I think going hand in hand, it's the same thing. Memphis City may not be directly over the schools, but we need to have a huge role in working with the county and the Shelby County School Board to make sure that the people that we represent do get the proper meals that they have at Shelby County schools. My treasurer of charity, she is a Shelby County school employee, and she understands the needs for this. My grandma was a school teacher. I get where our schools are really needing advocacy, even beyond Shelby County Schools Board. And I commend Michalyn for being a teacher and an educator, because I know how hard and how much it involves, and you're laying the groundwork for our youth and helping get them on the right path. I think it's going to take a representative who can work with all of those aspects of government, understands how budgets and government work, and how we can advocate as a councilman toward better schools. MATA funding, even like one of the things I asked Mayor Harris and School Board Member Stephanie Love, at a meeting at McKell Lowry's Town Hall meeting, I said, why can't we give bus passes to students and college students for free? And, when you've got a parent that works 2 or 3 jobs, you might not be able to get off work in time to get their kids to school. Why can't those students at least have the chance to catch a bus nearby to get to school? And luckily that was pushed through, and I met with Mother King, who found the Bus Riders Union. She was like, thank you for speaking up for that. That's small stuff that can help our kids. And as a councilman, that's the kind of stuff I want to advocate for as well. And she founded the Bus Riders Union, so to have her say thank you, it meant a lot. And I told her, I said, this is the kind, she goes, a lot of people don't understand that the city still has say so in that. And I agreed with her completely. I said it's still part of it. You're still a representative of the city. These people are city residents, but they're also Shelby County residents, and we should work collaboratively.
This is the last question, and I mentioned it. This is the second to last question.
Okay.
I'll come back.
Sorry.
All right. I'll come back.
Okay, I'd like to ask both of you guys, and I didn't get a chance to ask it yesterday, but listening to how passionate you all are, I need to know, what moment of clarity did you have that made you decide, hey, I want to run for city council? I mean, what happened?
Well,
Tell me a story.
I'll tell you my story. When I came to Memphis nearly 10 years ago and running Lowe's, I heard the horror story of how, oh, Memphis is such a dangerous city. You want to make sure you move to the suburbs. So I moved, out there when I first got here, and I found myself coming into Memphis, and I saw the passion that people have for this city. They're prideful. They love their city. And I saw a rebirth happening. I saw boards coming off windows in Overton Square and downtown, paint going up, revitalization happening, and I wanted to be the change that I wish to see. It's what my grandma always told me. She said, if you want to change something, be the change you wish to see. And so I did. I moved downtown, I bought an old Victorian, and I invested into my district. I chose it to be my home, and I immediately started working in the community to try to better the community. I served on the CDC, Victorian Village CDC, as treasurer for 2 years. Then I got elected president of the board for 2 years. Then I started joining the Downtown Neighborhood Association, where I served on the board of directors, and I met more Memphians. And then I started serving as Memphis City Beautiful's commissioner. I was appointed, to do that position and serve over, help oversee that organization that helps cleanups and beautification projects. And going into these neighborhoods and seeing the overgrown lawns, the tires that we would have to go pick up, the trash that we would pick up, on our volunteer programs and on our cleanups that we would do, the blight that was out there, I just said, how is this in the condition that it is? Why are these communities looking like this? And it's because the representation does not have a heart for the district. They're concerned about themselves versus their people. And that's why I said, I think for me to make the biggest change, I can do only so much by serving on boards and being a commissioner for City Beautiful. How can I really step up and make the best change and the most change to do as much as I can for as many people as I can for as long as I can? And the answer was, Jerred, why don't you run for city council?
Okay, so the blight and we can do better.
Blight and meeting the people and all working hand in hand. Well, we did a cleanup at the old Whataburger in Fraser with Jamon Bullock did a huge mural on there. Being part of that, being alongside with people in Fraser, shoulder to shoulder, working with people from Fraser, from South Memphis, and you hear these people, you see their passion, you feel their heart, and they just want a better community. They want somebody who cares, and understanding the programs that I do, like TIFs, like pilots, like opportunity zones, like the Community Reinvestment Acts. The knowledge that I've gathered serving on the boards and as Commissioner for City Beautiful, I think will help make me the best councilman that I can be for this city.
Same question, Michael.
Well, I think that's an awesome next to last question. Having that retrospect, but I'm from Memphis, born and raised in North Memphis and Fraser, having young parents. I was in Fraser in the daytime, North Memphis at night, for a long, long time. So just always having that knowledge of my community. And once I finished at Christian Brothers University, I went to New York and went to Columbia, taught in the Bronx. And then when I returned with a group of upset neighbors over this threat of gentrification in Klondike in 2014, we formed a nonprofit called Our Grass, Our Roots that works specifically in North Memphis and Fraser. And through that work, we essentially collaborate with community partners and trying to make impactful change across all the small neighborhoods of North Memphis. So within that work, we're realizing who should be directly supporting us, who should be directly serving us. And it always came to the same person, our city council representative. So we would ask, well, where are they? Are they going to respond to our outreach, emails, countless calls, countless people calling them out? And we didn't have that response. So understanding that that was really tied to a lot of the issues that we were trying to fix in our nonprofits and others. And also, since I'm from the community, know the area, and also have had time to build that partnership and support from countless pastors, community leaders, CDC owners, local representatives, political representatives already in the area, from state rep to school board to county commission. We, as a community, because we say our campaign, and it's not just for me, just me up there, but it's for our our neighborhoods, for where I'm from, for our people who need it the most. We said that, all right, we're going to start this campaign together for Michalyn Easter Thomas for city council. And having that known support, that stable people in the area who are behind this, and also who are going to be able to hold me accountable, which we currently don't have for our current representation. So not only accountability, but that open and honest line of communication. Being able to know that your representative is going to truly represent your needs and your priorities, and not be afraid or unwilling to come and see what has changed or why your thoughts are in that matter. So really just understanding that my community needs more within District 7, and that a lot of the L's we were trying to fix could have been helped and aided by city council representation.
Now the last question. Probably not nearly as good as her question.
No.
But it's what I mentioned earlier. This is directed, again, as I mentioned earlier, to Jerred first and then Michalyn next. And that is, throughout this campaign, throughout this race, what have you learned about yourself and your district or the city? Jerred, you first.
I've learned that the community that I served and that I live in, it faces a lot of the same issues. A lot of the communities many of the communities that District 7 consists of have the same things that we worked on at our Community Development Corp. The same things that I see all throughout Memphis, and that it's mainly people that I meet and that I work with, and that the CDCs that I've collaborated with and these nonprofit organizations. I've learned that our city has the biggest heart of any city I've ever been in, but they also need a representative who is going to be attentive and be there. I think the number one reason that our campaign has been the number one campaign so far as donors, the number of donors speaks a lot. We've had over 350 individual contributions, and it's a grassroots movement because people believe in not only the fact that we, as our campaign and as the people behind the campaign, the supporters, we believe that our city has so much more potential than it's being given. I've learned that these people just want a voice. They want somebody they can reach out to, and they want somebody that's going to care about them. And they see that in our campaign, and they believe in us. This is a collaborative effort. This isn't about Jerred. This isn't about Michalyn. This isn't about anybody else running in this. It's about the community that we are asking to serve. People get confused. I've learned this talking to people throughout District 7. People get confused that you work for the people when you're elected. This isn't a title that's a nice, pretty badge that you put in front of you in City Hall chambers. This is a service. This is a job that you need to do, and do well, do honestly, do with integrity, and fight for your people. And that's what I've learned. I've learned that these communities feel like they haven't had a voice. That's why I show up to the Memphis 3.0 meetings for the new Chicago CDC. I was the only candidate in that room that stepped up and fought for those people. I was the only person that ever showed up to see Smoky City CDC meeting when we first announced in January, and the CDC said, "Jerred, you're the first candidate we've seen show up." And then since then, she goes, "Jerred, I know you're always going to be here," and they appreciate that because you're there. I've learned that those people just need you to be there. They need you to listen, but they need someone that understands the things that are going to help lift them up. The programs, the how government works, the issues at hand. Anybody can sit up here and tell you what's going on. We've had forums with all these candidates, and everybody does a great job at identifying the issue, but the reason that we've gotten Memphis Realtors endorsement, Police Association, Fire Association, Planned Parenthood even endorsed, the reason that they get behind us and that we've been the leading campaign is because they understand that we have the understanding, we have the heart, we want to make the district better, and our proposals and what we want to do, and me being their representative is what I want to do. I want to serve these people, I want to be there, I want to listen, I want to fight for them, and they understand that. And I think that says a lot, because that's why we've been the leading campaign so far with that. And in closing, yeah, I'll close up. In closing, I think that I've learned the most that people care a lot about their communities, whether it's Harbortown or North Memphis. They all want the same thing. They want somebody there, they want the best for them, and they want the opportunity to be the best Memphis that they can be.
Michalyn, you get the same amount of time. And again, the question, I'll repeat it one more time, is what have you learned about yourself and about your district and the city from the time you've been running this race?
So, I like that question too. So one thing that I learned about myself is that, well, I knew that my whole life has already been about service. Everything that I do, from being a lifetime Girl Scout to now doing OGOR, nonprofits, to education. And one thing I've learned about myself is that I have to work harder at putting my name out along with the community. For so long, it's always, it's always going to be community, community, community. But trying to transform that into not just the organization or not just educators or community organizers as a whole, but also making sure that my name is added along with that list of people who want to see more progress in their community, instead of just going through other names and groups trying to shine it down, but bring it up during the campaign. So that's been the thing that's kind of learning and a kind of struggling thing. I'm always a behind the scenes person, so that was just a different dynamic for me throughout this campaign. And still kind of offish on it, still not trying to look at that. But with the district, learning that our district is no stranger to politics. We've had plenty of political, historical figures in our district. You can see them on the legendary street names, or you can see them still living there. I have a couple of street from me, judge, former councilman, school board member. It's just, we're no stranger to politics, and people know what they need and people know what they want. What we really require is someone to translate that into priority, putting themselves in the front for city government to work for those individuals. And I think that's why when politicians come from certain neighborhoods in the district, for example, in Douglas, Swearingen, or different people in North Memphis, as far as politicians, they know that and they remember what they brought to those areas and how it felt having someone to come from amongst them to represent them well in a government. And that's something that I've been learning more in our district. And then with Memphis as a whole, you just have just a lot of political history, but especially within District 7. With Memphis, something that I've learned and something that I'm still mulling over is that we as a city have to decide how are we going to approach progress. Are we going to continuously exclude people? Or are we going to do our best to make changes that will be inclusionary? Are we going to go forward together? We can no longer ignore that progress is happening in certain parts of the areas in Memphis and that it's being jumped over continuously in other parts, a lot of them, in District 7. So we as a city, I'm just learning that we're going to have to make stark decisions. What are our priorities going to be? Are we going to focus on things that won't directly impact poverty, crime, employment, and that will build up other areas? Or are we going to just ignore people as if they don't matter? They may not contribute to the tax base, they may not be working, they may be contributing to the crime data. How are we going to include people in this moving forward? Memphis really as a city has to make that decision, and I think this election is a great time to do so, especially with single member districts on city council, as we have to do with the budget, as we have to do with ordinances, and as we have to do with prioritizing our own neighborhoods, which we should have knowledge and trust from to go forward in that city government. So lots of different things I've learned in this campaign, and those are pretty much the highlights of it.
Thank you for your time and the time you spent with us.